What have you brought for supervision today?
Okay, yes. If I can relate it a scenario that has happened, and maybe the coach supervision question will come out of that.
Yes.
I had a client, a session with a client, which worked out beautifully the first session, and we, basically clarifying what coaching is, that it's a collaborative process, and at the end of it, we agreed on the time that we would meet and the date, and it was all set. And as I normally do on the day of our next session, I sent the client an email just to confirm are we still on for 10 o'clock? And she sent an email back saying, oh no, I forgot. And I was quite surprised, and I sort of pushed further in the email, almost doing an email coaching session in terms of reminding her of what coaching is and the collaborative process that it is, and a co-ownership and a co-responsibility. And she said, oh no, she was waiting for me to put it in her diary. And I said, well, that is not my responsibility. And somehow, we went into a backwarding and forwarding to a point where I said, look, I would appreciate if she respected my diary, because my diary is almost like a working schedule for me. So if she can't make it, it would have been, better if she had let me know in advance, reschedule, where we both can, at a time that we can both make it. And she said that, so I offered another date, and she said, no, she's not available on that date. And I said, okay, when would you be available? And she didn't respond to that. And I then said, look, I'm available any Tuesday, but you must just let me know a week in advance. And she never came back. So my question is around how far firstly, okay, so two questions. The one is, what could I have done differently in that situation? And how far do I coach where, the client shows resistance? How far do I take it?
Okay. So you had a first session, an intake with a client.
Yeah.
Went really well.
Very well.
As is your practice, you then emailed her on the day of the second coaching session. And it turned out that she had forgotten. But then it developed rather strangely. And you found yourself almost caught up in email coaching.
Yes.
So the first question you asked is, what could you have done differently? And the second question is, how far do you push with resistance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, which do we pick up first?
I think maybe we can take the first one, what could I have done differently? And then we can tackle the other one later.
Super. So what could you have done differently?
What could I have done differently? Possibly, firstly, I possibly could have taken the phone and phoned her when I sensed that it was getting into a backwarding and forwarding. I think I could have done that differently, just to check in and find out what is happening with her. I think when she said she had forgotten, I took it quite personally.
Did you?
I did, because I'm thinking, a person has a diary, you write it in there, we had agreed on the time, we had agreed on the day, And I was quite irritable, I think, because I just couldn't understand the forgetting.
Okay.
So maybe I could have been a little bit more compassionate for initially, rather than taking it personally. So maybe I could have asked her, what made her forget.
Yes.
But I suppose for me, I just couldn't comprehend, and I think that's the mercy side of it. I wasn't merciful in that sense.
And how were you feeling towards her in that?
I think I was quite frustrated.
Yes.
I was frustrated that how can she forget? Is she taking this seriously? It's a collaborative process.
Yes.
And we had agreed. I mean, that is the time and that is the day. So I was feeling a little bit. My initial response was frustration.
Yes.
And I took it personally.
Yes.
So that was, yeah.
So your system is actually tried and tested.
Yes.
This is how you do it.
Yeah.
And suddenly, with one person, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Your first response was to be frustrated and maybe something else. And then you noticed there was a back and forth, which is not... Well, let me ask, is that typical of you? And kind of email exchange?
In that coaching context, no, it's not. But somehow I felt like I needed to get to a point of awareness. I felt that the client was not aware of the impact of her forgetting was having on the relationship.
Yes.
So I felt the need to actually get her to that point of awareness.
So what happened was, after your frustration or coming out of the frustration, you wanted to get her somehow to understand the impact of her non-appearing.
Yes.
And you said you weren't compassionate.
I think I wasn't compassionate in thinking that, there might have been something going on with her that led to her forgetting.
Okay.
I just took it at face value. But in the email, actually, I did ask what happened, what made you forget? And she said, no, there's lots going on. So my issue was, didn't you put it in your diary? Because the lots going on could have been, the priority, the what's going on in your diary, or what is happening in terms of the commitments that you've made in your diary, could potentially supersede whatever is coming up, that comes up later.
So you were quite ready to be kind in a way, or to be understanding.
Yes, I was actually. But I think it could have come earlier, maybe. Because my immediate response was one of frustration.
Gotcha. I'm wondering about you and frustration, and particularly if you're allowed to be frustrated with your coachees. Especially when things don't go according to expectation or plan.
Yeah. My coaching process, or my day, is actually my diary governs it. So I diarize everything.
Yes.
Because that is almost my work schedule.
Yes.
And so if something goes out of place in that, I could have used that time for something else.
Yes.
So I think that's where, and also my work schedule is almost my invoice as well.
Of course.
So when things don't go, and particularly if there wasn't I mean, if a person cancels 2 days before or even a day before, I could still, reschedule.
Yes.
But if the cancellation happens out of my initiation, and I'm
Yes.
thinking if I hadn't confirmed, what would have happened? So I think that frustrated, that brought about the frustration.
Yes.
So it's not so much I get frustrated with my clients. It's just the frustration is around commitment.
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the commitments that are made that then are not followed up on.
You made a commitment. You did everything to make sure that the process would work.
Yeah.
And you didn't find a similar commitment coming back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as this is supervision, let's imagine that you've now brought something and we've kind of put it on the table. And let's look at it through the eyes of some theory. So rather than be back in it, let's analyse it. And as I suggest that, what piece of theory pops into your head that we might use?
Theory that we might use. Maybe who I was being, if you look at the transactional analysis personas, who was I being in that relationship,
And if you use those personas, how can we talk about?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, okay, being a critical parent.
All right.
Yeah, in that moment, I think. Yeah.
So in that moment, you somehow slipped into being critical parent
from being at an adult level. I think when the frustration was triggered in me, I just moved into that space of being a critical parent. Yeah.
Okay. And how typical is that of you?
Sure. It used to be until now. Look, I mean, I'm a parent of 4 kids, so the position of parent, it consumes a lot of who I am in the physical realm.
Yes.
So I think it's quite typical.
Okay.
It's quite a typical thing, even though I thought I had worked through it, but whenever now as I'm reflecting, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, okay. So when there are critical moments of frustration, I slip into that.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that you've worked on yourself over a period of years. And as a professional, you find it relatively easy to be and to stay in your adult.
Yes, yeah.
To your surprise, there's something about this that invited you to move into your critical parent.
Yes. 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 And I'm wondering what that is also about.
What's that about?
I'm not actually sure. I wonder if it's not. I mean, the client that I was working with is younger. And now, actually, as I'm reflecting, oh my goodness, I'm thinking, was I feeling disrespected? And with disrespect comes, the a thought of being disrespected by someone younger than me. And that then triggered the critical parent.
Okay.
So that's quite a reflection. It's probably what happened.
So So, what you've come up with is that when there is, possibly, when there's a younger person who disrespects you, or by whom
where
you
I feel disrespected, yes.
Okay, so when there's a younger person who does something and you feel disrespected, you perhaps move into your critical parent. Okay.
Yes.
Good thinking.
Yes. And I didn't think I would be like that. I thought I was a liberal adult.
But you are.
Yeah, so it's quite a good reflection, you know.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So what was it? Was it simply the sense of being disrespected? Or, let me ask you differently. What was it that brought the sense of not being respected?
I think as soon as she said she had forgotten, and then we then carried on in a conversation where I felt she was not being aware that her forgetting was impacting on our relationship. I think that made it even more, worse. Okay. Where I felt this kid doesn't see.
This kid doesn't see. Can I bring in another word that you used right at the beginning as you were talking? It was about her diary and her expectation that you should put yourself in her diary.
Yes.
Is there some connection with this?
Yeah, I think possibly. I mean, initially I thought I was thinking along the lines of co-ownership and co-responsibility, but actually, now thinking about it, I'm thinking she was being disrespectful by expecting me to put things into her diary, you know. So only now, in hindsight, am I thinking of disrespect, but previously, I sort of thought it's around she's not seeing that this is a collaborative process and co-ownership. But actually, maybe sitting underneath that was this idea of disrespect. Yeah.
Lovely thinking. So, with this insight that you now have, what does that mean for your practice going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the importance of speaking about a situation, a coaching situation, reflecting on it immediately,
yes,
is quite valuable and important.
Yes.
Especially something that sits with me, because this has been sitting with me. I was thinking quite deeply about it as to what could I have done differently, and was it a resistance, etc.
Yes.
So it is valuable to reflect on something that brings about heat within me as a coach. It's quite important for me to talk about it and reflect on it.
Yes.
And then secondly, just to keep that critical parent in check. As much as there is continuous development around, how I who I am in relation to my practice.
Yes.
I keep that in check quite a bit, but obviously, that particular realization around the critical parent is quite important, especially when I'm dealing with younger clients, because normally I deal with peers or older.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So with the younger clients, I need to be particularly aware.
Which is a word I think you like.
Yes. It's an important word.
It is. So going forward, there's the continuing, your decision to continue reflecting on your process.
Yeah.
But there's also keeping a healthily watchful eye on your controlling parent.
Yes.
Can I add a piece?
Yes.
And I think the controlling parents are really important. So let's not make it bad. It's a really useful sign that there's something else going on, something deeper. So you could take it as being a kind of indicator or a flag to do that bit extra work rather than getting upset about it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I suppose asking the question, why is it so much of a frustration?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why does disrespect become such a frustration?
What a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
How come you morph your frustration into, no, it was disrespect into frustration, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. What sat beneath the frustration was disrespect, yeah. Or my perception of
Absolutely.
of being disrespected, yeah. Yeah.
So we started off with you wondering what you could do differently. And we moved into the question of you as a practitioner. What are your takeaways from this supervision?
I think, it's so useful to talk and reflect on the practice. And so that is my takeaway, is actually to find space and time to reflect on my practice and who I am in relation to it.
Absolutely.
So that is very valuable, and that's my takeaway, the importance of doing that more regularly than I think I'm doing at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this a place for us to press the pause button?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.